Hey, what's up, guys? Let's start with the morsel of the day today, which is going to be talking about why Coach Faraz Zahabi is both right and wrong when he's addressing this concept about working out. Joe Rogan, he also addressed it on his own show. I think it's Ask Me Anything on the Tribread channel or uh, TriStar channel, excuse me. But let's take a listen.
CrossFit people out there right now that are screaming into their phones.
They're wrong. All due respect. They're wrong.
I like how you say all
They're
due
wrong.
respect.
With all due respect, they're wrong. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
And look, if you like CrossFit, do it. Whatever motivates you, do it.
Okay.
CrossFit's problem is it's fatigue seeking.
Yes.
It says, look, go out there and burn yourself out.
Yeah.
That's totally wrong. They're not building any skill. Try to show me a guy who's a champion in CrossFit, champion in Jiu-Jitsu. That guy would need 2 lifetimes to reach mastery in both of those. Why? Because my CrossFit workout is going to tax me so much. I cannot learn armbar, sweep, triangle choke, double leg takedown, underhook. I've taxed my whole system. My system is in recovery. When your system is in recovery, what can you do but rest? You understand? Mm-hmm. Okay, Rafa Mendes. Do you think Rafa Mendes, arguably the greatest pound for pound, one of the greatest pound for pound jiu-jitsu guys in the world, do you think he's got a great CrossFit workout that he's really mastered, he's really good at? Do you think he has a great back squat? Do you think he's a great deadlifter?
Doesn't look like it.
No, he doesn't. Believe me. You think Gordon Ryan? He's a great Olympic lifter. No, they're always going to be at an amateur level in the fitness world. Why? Because if they were experts, they would have taken so much from their jiu-jitsu. Like look at George. He does gymnastics.
Okay, so first and foremost, let's talk about this. Okay, and we're going to get into the George St. Pierre thing here in a second, but this is where Coach Zahabi is right. Is that if you're going to be a professional, at a particular set of skills, most likely you'll always be an amateur in other sets of skills. That being said, okay, I don't like the fact that he's dismissing the freaks out there like Bo Jackson, right? Like Deion Sanders, that played at a skill level in both football and baseball to be a professional athlete in both. Okay? You're dismissing the fact that it can be done. Right? That's number one. Number two, he talks about the amateur level and being fatigue seeking. Well, yes, you're fatigue seeking. And this is where he gets it kind of wrong. He says that, you can't tax your system and then learn armbar, triangle, omoplata. Well, it's actually been my experience, that I hear a lot of black belts talk about how this is why we have such an intense warm-up going into technique, is because essentially I don't want you using your athleticism and your strength, okay, to get these techniques. I want your body taxed. I want your body tired because I want you to be using leverage, angles, and timing to pull off these techniques and to train these techniques, so that since that's the mode that you train them, that's the mode that you learn them, then you will always have them in that mode. And I've heard this from numerous amounts of black belts, okay? And not only have I heard this, for instance, from black belts at a typical school, but I've heard this on YouTube from black belts that are very high level, that hey, you want to train exhausted. When you're exhausted, that's when you want to train jiu-jitsu, because that's the whole point of jiu-jitsu. So I don't know that I necessarily agree with Coach Zahabi on this one, that you can't master both skills. If you're truly looking at jiu-jitsu in the lens that Helio Gracie wanted jiu-jitsu to be looked at, which is it's a tool for the smaller, less athletic person to defend themselves against a bigger, stronger opponent. It's one of the ways that if you are not the smallest person, if you are not the weakest person, if you're not the least athletic person, to handicap yourself, to put yourself into that position, to really learn to be efficient in the techniques and in jiu-jitsu. So, I mean, well, he's correct on one hand. On the other hand, he's really not. He also talks about later on about, getting in training. So let's finish listening to what he has to say about GSP.
Gymnastics. Okay, and I'm the one who I twisted his arm a little to put him in gymnastics.
Why?
Because I thought it would give him tremendous benefit because of the amount of, first of all, they use a lot of body weight, so it doesn't cost us anything neurologically. Body weight exercises are very easy to recover from. Body weight exercises are very easy on the nervous system. They use leverage instead of weights. Plus, the stabilizer strength is unbelievable. So, and of course, I wanted coordination. I felt George was a little bit stiff, mechanical. And the tumbling makes you more fluid. I thought I would create more efficiency this way. So we get him there, and there's difficulties. Okay, from A to F. We're still at A and B, and he'll always be at A and B. Maybe he'll touch C in his career, but he'll never get to F. You'd have to start really young, and you'd have to do it full time. You know, imagine somebody trying to get good at jiu-jitsu doing it part time. He'll never get good. He'll be so.
Okay, so again, here we go with Coach Zahabi's assertions. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to sound like I don't respect Coach Zahabi. I do. He's one of my favorite coaches online that I like to listen to. He's given me a lot of practical advice that I've taken from his videos and I've applied in my jiu-jitsu and that I've experimented with. That being said, okay, he's dismissing again concepts from people who are experts in the field that directly disagree with him. Okay. Let's talk about the human guinea pig, for instance, Tim Ferriss. Okay. Tim Ferriss will tell you that you can learn a skill in a much shorter amount of time. Okay. Than what the overarching consensus is. Okay. Look at Josh Watkins. Okay. He's a black belt under, Marcelo Garcia. Okay. He's the kid that was featured in the Searching for Bobby Fischer. Okay. I'm sure he probably learned jiu-jitsu much quicker, right? Look at, let's say, Jim Quick would probably tell you that there's probably a shortcut, right? Because he's an expert in learning and how to learn jiu-jitsu faster. Okay. Kit Dale. Okay. Look at how fast he got his black belt. And he's telling you that he can teach you how to learn jiu-jitsu the way that he learned jiu-jitsu so that you can learn it faster. So this concept that you have to spend all of this time to master something, that may have been true, a decade ago or 2 decades ago, right? And for most of human history. But now with the ability to immerse yourself because of the electronic world, right? And understand things, it makes it a much different process. That's number one. Number two, he's talking about full time, but what are we really talking about full time? Okay. What are we talking about when he says you have to start really young? What we're really talking about is mat time, right? And this is one of the things that it frustrates me now that I have perspective when new people coming into jiu-jitsu ask me, well, how long is it going to take me to make my blue belt? How long is it going to take me to make my purple belt? How long is it going to take, to make my black belt? How long did it take this guy or that guy? Well, and what they want is a date, right? They want time measured in a date, like 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 months, 6 months, right? By some kind of date. But the reality is that it's not measured by dates. Okay, it's not measured in days. Okay, you have to look at it much more like you would a degree, right? Where you have so many credit hours, okay, that you must earn. And even that, even a degree is somewhat deceiving, because while you maybe need 12 credit hours, let's say, to get through a semester and get full credit, the reality is that those are the only hours that you spent in the classroom. Those aren't the hours you spent studying. So really what the question is what does he mean by full time? How many mat hours are you going to spend to become an F, right? A, B, C, D, E, F levels, right? How many mat hours is it going to take to approach the F level? That's the question. And in today's world, I would argue, because of the wealth of countries and nations now, because of the digital age, your ability to immerse yourself into a subject, right, with all of the new cutting edge ways that we're learning how the brain processes information, I would say that those mat hours can be greatly reduced if you're willing to listen to people. So this is, again, I'm not disagreeing with everything Coach Zahabi is saying. I'm just saying that he's both right and wrong at the same time. And there is this duality. So everything, even when you're talking about somebody who is very high up in the food chain of knowledge, you have to remember that there's still a second layer of understanding. Okay, but let's continue.
So he'll reach such a level. CrossFit is too fatigue-seeking for an MMA fighter. Now, if CrossFitters followed, if they just followed that 70% rule, they could, and periodically went to their max periodically, as opposed to every single workout, go totally out. I bet you their top guys don't go all out every day. I bet you if you watch what their top guys do, they taper off the workout. They make the workout between 70 and 85% of their true max, and they work volume. And then closer to competition, they go higher in intensity. I guarantee you that's what the best CrossFitters do. There's no way that the guy who goes balls out every day is going to add up as much workout and as much training time as the guy who's going 70 to 85% of his max. There's just no way.
But when they do those classes, like say if they do a CrossFit class, and I'm speaking out of ignorance, honestly, because I only watch them on video. I've never done a CrossFit class. But it seems to me they're competing against each other.
Yeah, they're going all out, trying to set a PR. Every class.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. All due respect. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
But why is it so popular?
Because people think that's right. Because why? Because when you watch a prime time or...
Okay, so this is where Coach Zahabi is just wrong, period. He's not right at all. Okay, this is a point where he's just wrong, period. It's not because they think they're right. And I think this is a point that a lot of coaches that are higher up, that deal with professional athletes, why sometimes their advice isn't the best advice for the average Joe. Okay. And, you know, Joe Rogan, he's asking this question, and I don't think he's asking this question because he doesn't know. Okay. I think he's asking this question because he's a very good interviewer. And so he's saying, well, why, you know, it seems that they compete against themselves, or against each other, excuse me. And, you know, why would they do it? And why is it so popular? And, you know, Coach Zahabi says it's because they think that that's right. And he's wrong. That's not why CrossFitters, the regular Joe Schmoes, right? CrossFitters, the guy who, you know, does his CrossFit workout in the morning, and he then goes home and he showers and he gets ready and he goes to work and he does his day. And then, you know, the next morning he might wake up and go back to CrossFit, or 2 days later he goes back to CrossFit and he does it again, right? That's not why that guy pushes himself to the max and tries to set a personal record every single time he works out. Okay? That's not it. The reason why, okay, is that for most of us, the vast majority of human beings on this planet, the vast majority in the Western world that, you know, have the ability, the luxury of going to a gym to work out, okay, whether we're talking boxing, whether we're talking jiu-jitsu, whether we're talking, CrossFit, whether we're talking, some other fit body boot camp type thing. The reason why these people push themselves to quote unquote the limit and to fatigue every single time and try to get their best performance is because for them, that is their professional shot. Okay. They are amateurs. So every single time that they go in to work out, they know they're never going to reach or achieve the professional level of CrossFit or the professional level of jiu-jitsu. They're never going to approach that. So it is their Super Bowl, if you will. It is their World Series. It is their NBA Finals. It is their NCAA championship, right? Every time they go in. And it's what makes it fun for them. And because they're not competing against one another. When people in CrossFit, when people in Jiu-Jitsu really start to embrace the ideas, they realize that they're not competing against the other person. They're competing against themselves. And there's no better victory for the average Joe than beating themselves. Okay? And those of you who have been white belts in Jiu-Jitsu, for instance, probably know this, right? It was when you got tapped out 20 times your first jiu-jitsu class, and then now you only get tapped out once, or you didn't get tapped out at all. It's a victory for you, right? That's your personal best, and that's your victory.
Fight. The guy's at the peak. He's going at he's at a point in his training camp where he's at the high end of intensity. So people are always watching the last part of your camp, the part where you're peaking, and then you're going to go taper off for 10, 15 days. They don't see that part, and they don't see the months before where you ramped up to that level. They just see the last 2-3 weeks where it's the last few sparrings, and we're mimicking fight speed to the maximum as we can. Yeah, we're flirting with danger here. We're only doing it a little bit. But that's the part everybody's watching. So they think, oh, if you want to become really good, you have to flirt with danger every day. That's what their workouts are. If you see George train throughout the year, you'd be like, hey, that wasn't so intense. That wasn't so intense. There's another really mellow practice. I remember when I was younger, I was training at the Grant Brothers gym, and I would see O.s.s Grant. He's a world champion boxer. Everybody knew him in Canada. He's the man. And he was training really relaxed. I was like, dude, I'm training harder than him. But that's his millionth workout. It was my 10th, He's doing in the long run. He's added way more years of training. So that's when I started to understand that the champion, the best guy, he's training for the long run. It's far more intelligent. He's getting far more workouts in than me that's burned out, and the next day I need a rest.
Right, yeah.
So it's consistency over intensity. Intensity entails you need to take a break. There's just no way around it. So if you're a young person listening to this and you've got a coach that's trying to burn you out every day, what the fuck do you do? I don't know.
Again, this is where I think Coach Zahabi and Joe Rogan are maybe getting it wrong. Because, again, the vast majority of people are never going to be professionals. So, as a coach, when it comes to fitness level, there is a certain idea that these people are nowhere near what their maximum potential is. So when we start them out, we are burning them out every single day because they are so far gone when it comes to fitness. Their fitness level is so low that a very intense workout for most professional or even serious athletes, serious weekend warriors, it's a very low intensity workout. But because these beginners' fitness level is so low, this will be a burnout workout for them. And to a certain extent, you have to do that. You have to burn that person out. And how do I know? Because this is exactly the way the United States Army approaches fitness when it comes to soldiers in the Army and in basic training. When you start basic training, it really is basic training. You don't realize that until after you're out of basic training and you've been in the Army for about a year, how rudimentary the workouts were when you started. and how simple they were, how easy they were, how you could run the doors off of everybody in basic training now after you've had a year of experience. But when you started, it seemed like they burnt you out every single day.
If you go into the gym and go, you know what? I was listening to Zahabi the other day, and Faraz is saying you're a retard.
So guys, that's it. That's the morsel for today. I know it was a little bit longer than the usual morsel, but it just struck me that, I love Faraz. Like I said, he's one of my favorite coaches. I really like, taking the knowledge that he gives and applying it practically to my own jiu-jitsu and my own training. However, being a trainer myself, training people, in fitness, as well as training people, and helping with coaching jiu-jitsu classes and self-defense and stuff like that, there's also, I think, some perspective that is lost when you're used to being at the highest level, right? You have to keep in mind that what Faraz is saying is for people that are at the very highest level, at the pinnacle of the sport, right? And I think that, Joe didn't really challenge him on it because Joe also hangs out with a lot of guys who are at the pinnacle of the sport, right? And so the things that they say really do apply and make a lot of sense. But for the average person, the weekend warrior, if you will, this advice is, it's so-so, okay? If you're a serious weekend warrior, right, where, you take competition pretty seriously, you take out your workout pretty seriously, yeah, makes a lot of sense, okay, if you're like this serious amateur. But if you're the beginner or you're just the typical weekend warrior, this isn't the greatest advice. Keep challenging yourself. Keep competing against yourself. Keep setting those PRs, guys. All right. Remember, be practical, be purposeful. Get fit with a purpose, guys.